In this chapter, we're going to learn how to factor. So this chapter is on factoring. We're going to be taking algebraic expressions and which are sums of quantities, and we're going to change them into a product of quantities. So to factor means to form a product of quantities. The different types of factoring are common factor, grouping. Trinomials are three different styles where the leading coefficient A is a 1, the leading coefficient is greater than 1, or a special case where trinomials are called perfect square trinomials. And binomials, we have the difference of squares. So when we're going to factor a problem, we always look for the common factor first. Do first. And then we ask how many terms there are. If there is 2 terms, we see if we have the difference of squares. When we have 3 terms, we look at the possibilities for trinomials. And if there are more than 3 terms, we consider grouping. So now we're going to look at the various types one at a time. For our first problem, we're going to factor out a common factor from this binomial. So the binomial is 7y plus 105. Let's re-express that as 7y plus 7 to the 10 goes once and 7 to the 35 goes 5. So how about 7 times 15? We see that there's a common factor. Factor means product. In both terms, we extract the common factor 7, and what's left in the parentheses is y plus 15. This is a use of the distributive principle backwards. This problem says factor out the greatest common factor for the group of terms. We have a parentheses 3b minus 1, and we have 4 parentheses 3b minus 1. The question says, what is the greatest common factor? And the greatest common factor is the quantity 3b minus 1. So the answer to this question is 3b minus 1. A variation of this question says, if we have the sum of these two quantities, factor out the greatest common factor, but express it equivalent to the sum, that means the greatest common factor is 3b minus 1, but what's left is a plus 4. When we have the equal sign, we have to write the resulting product. And when we don't have the equal sign and it's just asking for the greatest common factor, we just write the greatest common factor. So notice the difference with an equal sign and without the equal sign in the original problem. We want to factor by grouping. If I write the problem out, y parentheses y minus 2 plus 6 times 2 minus y. On the surface, we have nothing in common. But let's make an observation that the quantity 2 minus y is exactly opposite y minus 2. So with that in mind, let's rewrite this as y times y minus 2. Because these two binomials are opposite, put a minus sign, minus 6 parentheses, and then this becomes y minus 2. Double check. Minus the y becomes minus y, minus the minus 2 becomes plus 2. So these binomials are opposites, so we can therefore extract a minus sign from one of the binomials. Now we have a common group. We extract the group. Notice I'm using parentheses, and what's left is y minus 6. So now we've used grouping factoring, taking the sum and expressing it overall as a product. If you did not write the parentheses, if you wrote y minus 2, parentheses, y minus 6. That would not be correct because this says negative 2 times the group, not the y also times the group. So be careful. The parentheses is a must. Another example of factoring by grouping. Let's start off with xy minus 5x plus 6y minus 30. We have 4 terms, so grouping is considered. Let's group the first pair together, so that's going to be quantity xy minus 5x. Let's group the second 2 terms together, that's 6y minus 30. We're grouping them and they're separated by a plus because this was just adding 4 quantities. From the first group, we have a common factor of x. Therefore, we're left with minus y minus 5. And from the second group, we can pull out a 6. We're left with y minus 5. These are exactly the same binomials. So quantity y minus 5. And we're left with quantity x plus 6. Again, we're going to factor by grouping. We have x, y minus 4x minus 8y minus plus 32. We have the first group, which is xy minus 4x. The second group, include that minus sign because it's not separated. It's going to be negative 8y plus 32. We're just separating the 4 quantities. So parentheses around this, but we're adding. From the first group, we can pull out a x. So we're left with y minus 4. And now we want to see if we can get a y minus 4. And the only way we're going to do that is extract a minus sign from both these terms. So let's pull out a minus 8, not a plus 8, but a minus 8. And I'm left with y minus 4. And now we have a common group, which is y minus 4 in parentheses, and we're left with x minus 8. Most important when you're separating the 4 terms into 2 pairs, that the signs is attached to the term and the quantities are separated by a plus sign.